And now for something completely different.
Hi everyone, welcome back. It's Doug from Beyond Territory. This week I'm going to show you how to do a multi-base for Kings of War. This is my Northern Alliance army that I'm fresh out of the box, building up now and getting my head around the whole multi-basing system and how to piece it all together. And yeah, my new guilty little pleasure. So I hope you enjoy this one. Please like and subscribe if you enjoy the video, and I'll show you a few more techniques for your basing. Right, something a little bit different. I'm looking at Kings of War, and in the rule book it gives you a breakdown of, you know, size of your footprint of your bases and stuff, and it gives you a PMC, so a preferred model count for what goes on there. And I kind of, when I've been looking at some of them, I'm like squeezing. For example, I'm going to look at doing some inventory, 15 models on 100 by 18 mil. That looks a bit cramped, so I think I'm just going to go with the rule of cool and see how that turns out. As a start off, I kind of got to get an idea of what I'm going to do, so I generally start with a bit of a sketch, rough little indication of what I'm making, and I've gone for mound rocky terrain with a little bit of an ice frozen on river or lakey pond area. All right, so what I'm going to be using materials wise: corkboard, scrap bits of my XPS foam core card, modeling compound, this bad boy, hot glue gun, and my craft knife. So with Kings of War, I've decided to go for a Northern Alliance army, mainly because I thought they looked cool. I liked the idea of trolls and these like monster cavalry stuff, and the ice giant looks awesome as well. And these guys remind me of the Game of Thrones free folk guys. So I've painted a bunch of models, and I'm going to start by making a couple of regiment bases, and I've just used some scrap bits of wood. I've cut 100 mil by 80. So if I was doing the PMC in Kings of War, it should mean that all these minis, 15 of them, should fit on a base that big. I'm not sure that's cool. It's going to be a bit crowded. So I'm thinking if I put 2 regiments together into a horde, it's a bit more spread out. Give me a chance to add the kind of scenery and ideas I'm thinking of into it with a little bit of give, and should be a bit more interesting visually, and still sticking with the rule of cool. So just marking out, so kind of I know that I want to have some kind of frozen lake or river connecting the 2 pieces, like so. So I'm going to use this small area here. Kind of want a raised area in this corner, and balance it by having something raised in this area here. Time to get busy. Now the great thing about this cork is, let me just grab it, it's really easy to rip and tear into small pieces where you want it. And great, and what's really nice, it trims really easily as well. Nice sharp blade, you cut through it. Basically I've just got my kids down to sleep, which means I've got about an hour and a half of, is what I'm targeting myself to get some bits done. And hopefully I can get these 2 bases done tonight, get all the sticky wet stuff done, and then tomorrow do all the flocking and all the basing. So that's fingers crossed we get it done. So I've done the first layer, I've dry fit and stuck it down, kind of happy with the shapes and where it's going. Might trim a bits, but I'm gonna glue this down with a bit of hot glue, do it nice and quick, get on with it, get it all pieced down and move on. So next thing, I'm using some of the XPS foam. Nice little old cut off that, I don't know, I imagine we've all got our little piles and mounds of, I'll keep that to one side and maybe I'll use a one-day pile. I suppose I'm slowly working through it, cutting it away. All right, pretty fast work. I tend to get stuck in. I think what helps is that I've got a little plan of what I visually, what I'm intending it for it to end up like, which helps. But I'm also quite flexible in my approach, and I'm quite happy to go with happy accidents or adjust to what I want it to be or what the piece of material ends up breaking to. What you've seen, I've added a few more pieces of XPS. I'm going to trim it down a little bit on the edges. I've also added the black foam core card, which is really easy to cut and fit into gaps that I should have filled, and to create a bit of a gradient on the edges as well. This out of the way. I'm coming in with this stuff, modelling compound from Geek Gaming Scenics. I used this stuff for the first time a couple of weeks ago. You might have seen my video where I've used it for the first time. And I love it. It's awesome. Really cool. Really good at kind of smoothing out, bringing your scenery together, really, your terrain together. And what I'm going to do, I've got my pot that I'm going to mix it all in. And I've got my two kids, well, I've got two kids, but my kids' pots, cups. And what you do, it says on the back, it's 3 parts of the compound to 1 part water. So fill up 1 cup all the way, and I've got another cup that's 1/3 full of water. And I just tip it in. All right, so I've just taken my rings off because I don't want to mess those up. And I take a little splurge of it. And it's really easy. You just press it down into the areas you want it to be. I want to have a bit of a bank to the river. There you go, about 5-10 minutes bit of work. I've kind of got a nice undulating natural surface now to build up my paint and my textures, my flock onto. Okay, so the black's dried now, and I've also put a first coat of grey onto the rocky areas. And now what I'm going to do is come in with a bit of burnt sienna. I'm going to use it on the side banks and the edges for where the water's going to be. Just a bit of a wet blend. Take my wet brush with black and blend in the brown. All right, whilst the burnt sienna's drying, I'm just going to come in with a, not quite a dry brush, like 3/4 dry brush of grey Sear from Citadel onto my... Come back in with Vallejo London Grey for the rocks. Just going to come in with some Citadel non-oil with a big brush. Just going to get slapped on. Alright, now I'm going to come in with a bit of a dry brush, white, just on a rock. I'm going to go in one direction. I'm just focusing on the rocky area. Alright, what I'm going to do is come in with some white PVA. I'm going to come in with brown ground from RV Painter. I'm just going to sprinkle it in certain places. Now that we've got first bit of texture down, I come in with my Woodland Scenics burnt grass. I use an Old Spice shaker. And just chuck it on. Okay, it's coming along. Flock's now dry. I'm going to come in with my sticky tufts, which are awesome. I'll just break it up, have a few scattered in. I've got a little pot of snow textures, and I've got my Geek Gaming matte scenic sealant. I'll give it a good shake, and I'm going to do it. I'm going to spray over the entire thing, but before it dries, I'm going to sprinkle on my snow textures, not everywhere, but definitely in amongst areas I'd like it to be. Now I'm coming in with the Aqua Magic bit of static water, realistic water, and I got this off Geek Gaming as well. I've made like a little barrier, sellotape on the edges, and I'll show you this one, a corner piece of cardboard that I've folded and over flapped, so it takes a bit of a seal, and then sellotape over the top of it. So it's sellotape first layer, then the card to give it strength, and then sellotape over the edge of that as well. And I'm just literally going to pour my water into that bit, fill it up. Okay, so whilst I've been waiting for my water texture to dry, I decided to place a tree into my multi-base as well. Looks quite cool. Put a bit of snow on it as well, texture. I'm going to come in with some water texture. Okay, so I come in with a dollop of the water effects, and I'm just going to smooth this on. I'm going to put a bit of white paint into it as well, really watered down, and then hopefully when that dries it will look like cracking ice. So the ice is settled and there's a little bit of white paint in it that creates like a frosty effect. See? Cracks and stuff on top of it. It looks really cool. Quite pleased with that. So we've got the frozen little bit of ice kept together quite nicely, and it's now about putting my figures on. Okay, so I managed to stick all my men down. Quite happy with it. I think according to Kings of War rules, the size of this base, I should have twice as many people on it. Quite happy with this amount of men. Fun little project. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you picked up some hints and tips. Yeah, feel free to like and subscribe, and I'll catch you next week. Thanks again.